An announcer's voice declared that from that moment on, the proceedings would begin. Before a massive crowd, he announced the execution of Rama Korea, the rebel summoner, was about to take place. As he faced his own death, Rama Korea could only begin a thought. His mind flashed back to the winter of his 3rd year in high school, when he was swept away by a rock slide. Following that accident, he found himself summoned to another world. There he was blessed with the rare abilities of a summoner. Hoping to return to his original world, he set out on a journey to defeat the Demon King. This quest, alongside his powerful summoned beasts, lasted for 3 long years. He remembered celebrating with the princess and his companions, cheered on by the grateful public. He recalled being warmly welcomed by the townspeople, sharing a happy moment with a local blacksmith. After his great victory, he was honored by the king, who bestowed a medal upon him. Crowned with flowers, he smiled, feeling a sense of true happiness and belonging. Returning to the grim present, Rama acknowledged that he was about to be executed. He understood their reasoning, thinking it was only natural for people to fear a summoner powerful enough to defeat the Demon King. In fact, he considered it a miracle he had survived for as long as he did. From a balcony above, the king looked down and bid a final somber goodbye to Rama Dono. Rama, however, was unconcerned with the king, admitting that even in this final moment his only thoughts were of his summoned beasts. He truly hoped his strong yet lonely companions wouldn't cry, that they would never come to despise the people living in this world for what was happening to him. As the blade swung down, his final tearful thought was a cry for everyone he was leaving behind. The decisive blow fell, marking the end of one life and the beginning of another. Then, he awoke in a hospital bed, finding this new world surprisingly warmer than he had ever imagined. A dark, shadowy figure appeared in his mind. He also remembered successfully using curse-dispelling magic. He also recalled possessing healing abilities, his face contorted with the intensity of the recollection. The sudden rush of memories seemed to overwhelm him. In that past moment, he had confirmed with satisfaction that his power had worked. Back in the present, Rama stared at his hands in shock, wondering if that meant his powers were real too. He sat up fully, taking in the unfamiliar modern hospital room. As a sense of dislocation set in, he began to wonder what year it was. His expression hardened with suspicion as he processed his situation. Turning his gaze to the window, Rama was startled by what he saw. A dragon flew past, seemingly speaking, leaving Rama to wonder if it could possibly be real. She burst into the room to excitedly inform a doctor that Rama had finally woken up. Soon after, his parents were at his bedside. While his father expressed relief, his mother asked about his amnesia, a condition Rama decided to feign. He looked at the two of them, recognizing them as his parents but recalling almost nothing else about them. When Rama apologized, his father was confused, insisting that the accident that put him here wasn't anyone's fault. Continuing his act, Rama apologized again for not remembering them, and his father gently told him it was okay. His mother then embraced him, saying his waking up was enough for them, and his father added how glad he was that Rama was alive. Later, looking out at the city, he concludes that this is definitely not the Japan he knows. While being driven, he wonders if this is even the same world, noting that the car itself emanates magical power. A radio broadcast reports that Japan is at peace thanks to adventurers, and that dungeon streaming has become a boom among the youth. As an image of a streamer fighting a monster appears on a screen, the radio adds that major adventurer guilds are entering the business, causing the number of streamers to increase considerably. Staring at the screen, Rama reacts with stunned disbelief. He lets out a confused exclamation, prompting his father, who is driving, to ask what's wrong. He senses the presence of magical power coming from two sources. His father yells in alarm as he wrenches the steering wheel. A massive griffin has landed in the street, causing chaos. Rima wonders what's happening while his father shouts that a monster escaped the dungeon, and a nearby civilian curses the absent adventurers. Rima's father tells him they have to run, but Rima simply stares, identifying the creature as a griffin. Rima questions running away, thinking about how a griffin is a powerful monster that would require several skilled adventurers to fight and could easily kill an ordinary human. In a nearby car, a terrified mother shields her child. He debates defeating it, recalling he was killed for his dangerous power in his past life. However, he knows he could handle the situation immediately, even without summoning a beast. Rama resolves that the right thing to do is run away like a civilian, but he's stopped by a child's cry for help. From the car, his father shouts after him, calling him an idiot for jumping in. As he intercepts the griffin's massive claw, Rama berates himself as an idiot, lamenting that he has made his mother worry again. Suddenly, a great wolf was summoned, clashing fiercely with the griffin. He felt a familiar magical power, and wondered if a certain person had finally arrived. Suddenly, the summoner Rama appeared, greeting Luna. The man on the ground was shocked, sensing a third party's magical power. In a flash, a new presence shot through the air between the combatants. Nearby, an enemy woman with long hair began to cast a spell called Death Water. Just then, a blonde girl named Yukinaki Ayani appeared, asking Rama if he was okay. Rama was startled by her sudden appearance. Seeing his surprise, Ayani asked him why he was reacting that way. Meanwhile, another young man demanded to know why Rama was there. Ayani insisted that helping was only natural, and the other boy thanked her for coming to Rama's aid. Rama expressed his relief that she was safe too, but then urgently shouted for her to watch out. Later, Rama awkwardly greeted Yukinaki Ayani, who remarked that it had been a long time. He internally recognized her as his childhood friend, though he noted she looked more mature than he remembered. As Reima's father began to speak about his son's condition, Reima interrupted, insisting he would explain it himself. As she spoke, Ayani gave him a strangely intense and unsettling smile. Ayani was stunned by what he said next, asking in disbelief if he was joking or being serious. He explained that he now had amnesia and couldn't remember who she was, offering a sincere apology. Reima apologized again for acting so familiar, prompting Ayani to reintroduce herself as his neighbor and childhood friend. Ayani expressed a desire to throw him a welcome home party but acknowledged it wasn't possible now. Instead, she asked him to call her next time, and Reima agreed, promising to tell her everything. She confirmed her name and said goodbye for now, and Reima promised they would see each other later. He then turned his attention toward his computer desk across the room. Inside, Reima lay on his bed, reflecting that he hadn't returned to his original world. He mused that this world was identical save for the fantasy elements, and that his current body belonged to this world's Reima. He decided not to dwell on the negative, accepting the possibility that he had taken over the body of the original Reima after an accident left him unconscious. Sitting up, he agreed with Luna on this point. Realizing Luna was in the room with him, he asked with surprise what she was doing. Some time passed, and the scene shifted to show Reima now sitting at his computer desk. She turned from the computer and jumped onto his bed, calling it a safety check, and playfully suggesting she deserved a reward for having stayed hidden. Leaning closer, she then asked if he would pet her. He said he didn't mind but questioned her suddenness, to which Luna explained that she had been hiding for 6 hours since he had summoned her. Her ears twitched as he looked at her, puzzled by her sudden behavior. Reima simply said, "All right." As he petted her, Luna confirmed with relief that he was indeed her true master. He then walked over toward her on the bed. As Reima petted Luna, he was suddenly overcome with emotion. Confused, Luna looked up and asked her master why he was crying. Touching her hair, he choked out that it wasn't a dream after all. Reima reflected that the warmth from his hand was chasing away the anxiety that everything from the other world might have been just a dream. Luna gently called him a crybaby, just like always, and reassured him that she was there. He realized with relief that his companions truly did exist. Later, Luna told Reima she wanted to sleep with him, leaving him confused. He admitted that he knew nothing about what happened in the other world or what he was supposed to do now, feeling completely lost. With tears in her eyes, Luna confessed she didn't want him to disappear. She pleaded with her master not to go. Realizing her fear, Reima immediately apologized and called himself an idiot for worrying her. He then reasoned that even in this new situation, one thing was certain: he still had his summoned beasts. With that realization, his path forward became clear. Embracing Luna, Reima declared with renewed determination that he would protect them and not repeat the same mistakes he made in the other world. She watches him sleeping peacefully, feeling a profound sense of relief. She's simply glad that her master is alive. Saul vows that if the world ever tries to harm him again, she will become whatever it takes to protect him. Later, Reima wakes up feeling unusually tired and reflects on the dungeon streamers he's learned about. He quietly hopes that the person managed to get out of the dungeon safely. He recalls the frantic energy of the streamer he watched. He then reaches for his phone on the nightstand. He begins to ponder the logistics of this new world, wondering if dungeon streamers are just a type of adventurer, and if he needs to become one to enter a dungeon. His thoughts are interrupted when he sees that his childhood friend Ayani is a famous streamer with 2 million subscribers. Reima is shocked to realize that people he knew from this parallel world have become incredibly famous. Shaking off the surprise, he decides to focus on the important matter of what he should do next. His primary goal is to understand this new world, and most importantly, he needs to gauge how powerful everyone is here. He must figure out why he ended up in this parallel world in the first place. He concludes that he will probably need to enter a dungeon at some point to find answers. However, he decides there are other priorities to handle first. Despite wanting to learn more, Reima decides to head to a dungeon for now. He summons a piece of equipment, which materializes as a presence-concealing robe. He puts it on, determined not to repeat the tragedy of his past life. For that reason, he has no intention of fighting actively, but he does want to test how useful his summoned beasts can be. Remembering that dungeons are open 24/7, he figures he can use his robe to hide his presence and slip inside unnoticed. Checking his phone, Reima identifies the nearest dungeon as the C-rank Kurogain. He confirms it's a standard dungeon type. The monsters inside are also C-rank, but he learns they are capable of using technology and tactics. Arriving at the entrance, he sees it's mostly populated by orcs, but is surprised to find a barrier blocking the way. He realizes that as he suspected, the dungeon is closed at night. His small dragon companion remarks that this is for the better, as no people means it will be easier to move around. Suddenly, a massive dragon appears before them with a deafening roar. Reima's dragon companion senses the immense danger, nervously noting that the situation doesn't look good. The force of the roar blasts Reima backward. He is completely startled by the sudden appearance of the beast. Tumbling through the air, Reima shouts in disbelief, shocked that a battle is starting so unexpectedly. As he plummets, a summoning circle flares to life beneath him. Lying safely on the massive beast, he's caught by a giant wolf, and Luna's voice asks if he's okay. The relieved summoner thanks her for the save. Now in her humanoid form, a girl with fox ears holds Reima, declaring that protecting her master is her duty. Beast back, he can now assess the situation. Reima looks up at her and apologizes for having died on her. She retorts that he's as unreliable as ever, which is why he ended up dying in the first place. The newcomer is identified as Saul. Reima is shocked, as he only meant to summon Luna, who angrily questions her sister's presence, while Reima complains that Luna isn't reliable enough on her own. The narration explains Saul is Luna's older twin sister. As Reima protests that she had no right to hijack the summoning, Saul nonchalantly says she doesn't care. Luna retorts that it's Reima's fault for not summoning her, which he concedes. He then tries to explain he can't just summon them both in this world, confusing her. Rema sincerely apologizes to Saul, admitting he missed her and promising to never again say he doesn't need her. A tearful Saul makes him promise and asks him to be his usual self. She asks if he truly needs her, and Rema confirms it, stating that he is counting on her from now on. Saul is ecstatic, gleefully concluding that Rema must really love her usual self a lot. Saul's mood soars as she's annoyed by a noise nearby. She identifies the source as little lizards, irritated that they dared to interrupt her. The scene then shows Rema standing over the monster's dead bodies. With the interruption gone, a cheerful Saul tells Rema he can pat her head later. She then challenges Luna to a hunting contest for the remaining lizards. Luna accepts, with the prize being a full day alone with their master. Luna warns Saul she won't give Rema up without a fight, while Rema pleads with them to go easy. Rema sighs, realizing they aren't listening to him at all, as Luna announces they are starting. The two sisters ignore him, facing each other with intense glares. Luna officially declares that the duel has begun. Rema desperately yells for the girls not to overdo it. Rema observes that dragons that would have been perfect for testing his strength were instantly turned to dust. Walking through the devastation, he muses that the monsters in this world might be weaker than he thought, and that he may have been too cautious, but it is too late. They have already vanished, leaving a trail of destruction. He charges toward a colossal monster, an unknown creature that would have once given him pause. But now, instead of bracing for a tough fight, he's thrilled. He grins, pleased to have found such a huge target to test his true power on. Suddenly, the cat-eared girl Kuro appeared, angrily confronting the dragon and demanding to know what it was doing to her Rema. From off-panel, Kuro screamed for the beast to die, startling a surprised Rema. She lunged forward to attack, letting out a fierce cry. Her attack manifested as a massive fireball that engulfed the dragon. The scene shifted to a different time, where Saul looked downcast despite her efforts. Rema, however, gently thanked her, explaining she had helped him learn what he needed. Her mood brightened instantly and she proudly declared she'd nailed it, then asked Rema for a date. He demurred, explaining it was impossible because it would start rumors. He relented slightly, suggesting they could go if they got the chance, which made Saul eagerly ask if he was being truthful. Watching from a short distance, Luna addressed her master, declaring his words to be a promise. In another tense scene, Kodo faced Rema, calling him Ray, and telling him not to let her down. A swirling vortex of dark energy then formed between the two of them. A close-up showed Rema's hand crackling with the same dark power. With a crazed and intense expression, Kuro commanded him to die. The scene returned to Rema and his companions as Luna, in her wolf form, dashed through a forest. She then appeared before Rema in a puff of smoke. Rema groaned as Saul explained that her sister was unstoppable. He wondered if they could even catch her, but Luna, as a wolf, told him to leave it to her. Luna confirmed she could smell strangers nearby. Rema told her he was counting on her and she accepted the task with a casual air. Announcing her departure to her master, Luna prepared to leave. In a completely different setting, Rema stood alone on a snowy peak, stammering in disbelief. He was monitoring a live chat for a dungeon, where panicked messages revealed an emergency in what was supposed to be a beginner-friendly area, leaving him shocked. On the stream he's watching, an adventurer confirms he's now in S-rank territory. The streamer wonders aloud if resolving this emergency would make him a hero, but his own chat tells him not to be foolish. Suddenly, the streamer is taken aback by an unexpected sight, and Rema watches, transfixed. He spotted an emerald dragon, and his chat viewers erupted in shock, identifying it as a super rare A-rank monster. The adventurer found it highly irregular, as the dragon appeared to be a corpse. He boldly declared he was pushing forward to clear it anyway in hopes of reaching S-rank, prompting his chat to call him foolish. Elsewhere, Ray and his two summons, Sol and Luna, arrived on the scene, gazing up at a terrifying dragon he identified as Ragnarok. Rayma summoned his weapon, Leviatine, remarking that it had been a while since their last battlefield. The powerful staff could turn anything to ashes with a single swing, but it also functioned as a top-class tool for support magic. He took stock of his condition, realizing that with his mana at only 30%, the beasts he could summon and the magic he could use were limited. Despite this, he felt that what he was truly capable of hadn't changed at all. Addressing his two companions, Rayma told them to go wild, promising to back them up with everything he had. Meanwhile, the colossal dragon Ragnarok clashes violently with a smaller wolf-like creature. Rayma immediately began casting support spells, boosting his summon's attack and defense. He followed up by granting Luna fire resistance and creating invisible platforms, allowing the two beasts to launch a fierce assault on the dragon. Rayma braced himself, his expression hardening as he deflected a powerful blow from the massive beast. The dazed adventurer, caught in the crossfire, wondered if he had just died, but Rayma quickly told him he was alive and to stay down. A swirling vortex of dark energy slammed into the creature's side, sending a shockwave through the area. With little time to spare, one of the summons urged the other to finish the dragon in a single decisive hit. With a powerful cry, Sol unleashes her Radiant Sol attack. But the great dragon Ragnarok isn't finished, roaring back with its own devastating technique, Destructio Luna. As their attacks collide, the scene cuts back to the collapsing dungeon, where Rayma is urged to hurry. He's distracted, however, by a notification that his livestream now has over 200,000 viewers. The man desperately tries to get Rayma's attention, asking about the teleport gate, But Reima can only focus on the fact that he's live streaming, much to his companion's exasperation. Reima panics, realizing his life or death struggle is being broadcast to the world, while his companion insists he ignore it and find the gate immediately. Snapping back to the task, Reima uses his mana detection and quickly pinpoints the gate's location at the back of an altar. While his companion marvels at the speed, Reima notices an enemy has vanished and quickly summons Luna, telling her to enter stealth mode as he dismisses his companion's awe. The companion yells at them to run for it as the dungeon continues to fall apart. Moments later, Soul in her beast form announces that they have reached the entrance. Believing he has successfully escaped, Reima declares it game over. Reima tries to calm himself, believing he is safe within his stealth mode. They arrive at a grand ornate building, clearly a place of importance for adventurers. A woman stands in the brightly lit doorway addressing the assembled crowd of onlookers. Deciding to head home, Reima is stopped when Saul points out that the scent of his home is in the opposite direction, leaving him utterly confused. A quiet morning begins over a peaceful residential street. Inside, Reincarnates finishes his breakfast, surprising his father. Hearing it, Reima's father asks him to get the door, and Reima agrees. As he walks to the entrance, he wonders who could be visiting so early. On the intercom screen, his childhood friend Yukinaki Ayani appears with a cheerful salute. Reima looks at the intercom unit mounted on the wall. After greeting her, Reima asks what she wants, and Ayan suggests they walk to their school together. As they walk, Ayan happily remarks that it's been a while, and Reima admits it feels nice. Ayane then recalls that the guildmaster wanted to see Reima, explaining that even though he had no mana, he got a recommendation and they adventured together anyway, which is news to Reima. She adds that Reima only became an adventurer thanks to the guildmaster, who was their benefactor. Reima realizes that for this world's Ayani, he almost died, which explains her happiness before asking her a question. He asks what he was like back then, and she begins to describe him as clumsy. Ayani continues, calling him a total dungeon nerd who had a terrible sense of direction and got depressed easily. She adds that he was also weirdly dumb about random things and a bit spacey. Surprised, Reima asks if he hasn't changed at all, and Ayan confirms it. He demands to know if she's messing with him, but she insists she is not. Ayan clarifies, listing how he instinctively matches her pace as spacey but caring and always puts up with her whims. She concludes that most of all his kindness hasn't changed. Then she playfully admits she was just kidding. Reima internally confesses he was scared, but walking with her has calmed him down, making it feel like she is still the same person he knew. He apologizes, prompting Ayan to point out that his bad habit of saying sorry for everything also hasn't changed. Later at school, Principal Yuji Kazama begins to address Reima. The principal formally thanks Reima for coming back to the school. The scene establishes their location at Meikutsu High School. Reima erupts in confusion, asking why he was even enrolled when he was passed out and missed the start of the term. The principal explained that even without mana or a job, his genius was undeniable, praising him for using his dungeon knowledge to develop a whole new theory for the support role, making his admission a certainty. In fact, the man insisted. The school was grateful that he had come back. This was true, he added, even if Reima now had amnesia. Overwhelmed, Reima could only manage a quiet acknowledgement. A woman with glasses tried to cut the principal off, but he continued listing Reima's past achievements, being Ayane Yukizaki's exclusive support since middle school, pushing her to S-rank and topping the entrance exam for the support division. As the woman called him over, Reima reflected internally that his counterpart from this world had been quite amazing. He had been hiding behind the amnesia excuse, but now he realized he had a lot accomplished before he could give this body back. Moments later, a teacher showed him to his new classroom. She then prompted him to introduce himself to the class. Reima awkwardly introduced himself, noting his late enrollment in June and asking his new classmates to be nice and help him fit in. He finished by saying that he was counting on them all. To his surprise, the teacher declared it was perfect timing for a Q&A session about him. Visibly overwhelmed by the sudden attention, Reima asked them to go one by one. Immediately, an eager student volunteered to go first. Another girl jumped in, demanding to know what kind of relationship he had with Ayane. Reima was flustered, thinking they should be asking more technical questions, but the class erupted with similar inquiries. Students wanted to know if he and Ayane were dating, recognizing them as the rumored genius support duo from middle school, and asking about their insane combo. He hesitantly answered that they were probably just childhood friends, which was met with disbelief. The other students pointed out how close they were walking to school that day, and speculated that their relationship might just be professional. As one girl apologized for the intense questioning, Reima thought to himself that his vague answer was the safest choice given the reactions. She then asked Reima if he had seen the viral black robe video. Reima feigned uncertainty, which only excited the girl more. She praised the summoner's mobility and perfect support timing, while another student declared the video was pure gold for research. Playing along, Reima awkwardly agreed, adding that the summoned beast was super cute and impressive. Privately, however, he admitted to himself that he had actually blocked all mentions of black robe on his social media. After class, as Reima finally sat down, a student with a bandana named Shiki approached and asked if he was free. Shiki then invited him to grab some food together. Noticing Reima's demeanor, Shiki asked if something was wrong, making Reima realize his friend had picked up on his strange mood. Reima confirmed his friend's name was Shiki, Shiki, then confessed that he had amnesia and didn't remember much. After apologizing for the awkwardness, a surprised Shiki asked if he truly remembered nothing at all. Shiki immediately pointed toward the chaos, recognizing it as a dungeon outbreak. Shiki identified it as the underground dungeon beneath their school, and told Reima to stay put while he went to help the teachers. Reima asked if Shiki could fight, and Shiki confirmed he was an enchanter who could handle himself with buffs. Noticing Reima look pale, Shiki asked if he was okay, prompting Reima to realize this version of his friend was also different. However, Reima insisted Shiki wait, pointing out he had no weapons and had just recovered. He directed him to the rooftop evacuation point for C rank and below. Shiki reluctantly agreed, making Reima promise not to do anything crazy. As he ran, he vaulted over a railing, calling back to a surprised Shiki that he wasn't weak enough to be taken down by Meikutsu monsters. From the floor below, his friend could only watch with a worried expression. Nearby, other students began to panic, sharing news that tons of monsters had appeared. They confirmed the creatures were all over the place and out of control, with some people already injured. From the landing above, Shiki called out, anxiously asking if there had been any deaths yet. He then apologized to Shiki before preparing to summon a weapon to face the monsters. Reima donned a silver-blue robe that flared with magical energy. From a rooftop overlooking the school, he began by performing a mana detection scan. The robe was a masterpiece woven from Luna's fur, granting him high-performance stealth for long periods. He immediately followed up with a terrain scan of the area. His scan revealed around 50 enemies, which he noted was quite a few. Below, one of the goblin-like monsters spotted its targets and alerted its companions that it had found them. Using his stealth, Reima ambushed the monsters, taking one down with a blade and another with a powerful kick. The body of the slain monster dissolved into particles of dark energy. He then decided he needed to erase the evidence of his kills. With the evidence gone, Reima turned his attention to the next one. As he continued fighting, Reima found it strange that the monsters were so scattered, which was unusual for creatures that had emerged from a dungeon. He came to the conclusion that it was as if they had been placed there on purpose, possibly using teleport magic. He paused, a thoughtful expression on his face as he considered the situation. Reima looked down at the defeated monster he was holding. Reacting instantly, Reima cast haste and strength on himself to prepare for the next attack. An ogre suddenly appeared before the terrified students, one of whom rallied the others to hold out. Watching from above, Reima knew he couldn't use Luna or Soul, and that magic was too risky. Realizing a dagger was insufficient, he decided he had the perfect summon for this job. Reima performed the summon, calling forth Hala Hala Anthos, a powerful horned being who immediately moved to intercept the ogre with his massive blade. His attention then shifted to another area where two students, including Shiki, struggled against a monstrously tough foe, cursing that their attacks weren't working as Reima marveled at its durability. Just then, Lycoris appeared before them and announced the job was done, earning the gratitude of the onlookers she had just saved. As that creature faded in confusion, Reima confirmed another victory and reminded himself to blend in with the crowd naturally. To maintain his cover, Reima attributed the victory to the power of Meikutsu students, while privately noting his mana deficiency and telling Lycoris to return for now. Sometime later, Reima began to stir in a hospital bed. He awoke with a start, realizing he must have passed out. Performing a quick body scan, he diagnosed himself with a fever caused by mana drain, just as Lycoris appeared at his side asking if he was okay. After confirming there were no other humans nearby, he called out to Lycoris, relieved to see her. The narration reveals that both Lycoris and Hydros, another name for Reima, belong to a special race known as Archihydra. In a memory, a younger Lycoris weakly asked Reima to hold her hand. He had asked her if she was going to be okay, cautiously replying that he thought so. She pleaded with him, asking him to promise to hold her hand again so she could feel his warmth. Reima had made that promise to her. As he took her hand, he agreed, a moment that was tied to his own death in his original world. Lycoris recalled a time when she had considered destroying the world. She reflected that everything she valued, the joy of talking and the warmth of touch, was given to her by Reima, who accepted her when she only knew how to kill. For him, she would give her soul and even use her hated poison. As Reima fully awoke, he thought to himself that he never wanted to lose Lycoris again, just as his friend Shiki burst in, happy to see him awake. He cheerfully announced that he was up. Receiving a telepathic message, Reima acknowledged Lycoris's plan to stay hidden and bid her farewell for now. While a girl with them insisted she was fine, Shiki declared that because Reima is so kind, he would be the one to accept and carry everything for him. Shiki then playfully grabbed Reima's face, asking if he'd been worried about him, causing Reima to cry out in pain. He then muttered that he was just a rotten, hopeless piece of trash. Shiki continued, saying he wanted to be strong enough to carry the impurity of the person he loves. But when Reima asked what was wrong, he brushed it off. Meanwhile, Lycoris's determination was unwavering as she vowed to kill anyone necessary to protect Reima until the very end. A female classmate asks a distracted Reima Kari if he is paying attention. The group discusses their plan to enter a beginner dungeon, while Asahi Yugiri asks what someone is looking at. Asahi teases Shiki, calling him an adventurer otaku, but he defends the information he's reading as solid. Shiki then lists the famous S-rank adventurers, including Ayani Yukazaki, prompting a weary Reima to sigh and try to change the subject. To deflect, Reima suddenly announces that Meikutsu Academy is hosting a dungeon stream for first years which excites Asahi, who notes it includes a tutor section. Rin excitedly lists the participants, detailing Kaiser Dragonia's ability to become a dragon man, Lady Kagura's swordsmanship, and the monstrous power of the Ice Princess. She marvels that it's a collaboration of 3 S ranks, and Shiki teases her, but another classmate urges them to focus on their own dungeon trip, to which a disappointed Rin agrees. The scene shifts to a memory where Reima and Lycoris are searching for something, with Reima hoping to find a magic-related item. He reflects on how reliable Lycoris is, noting her mana detection skills surpass his own just as she announces she's found it. Reima is impressed by how quickly she located their target. Lycoris presents a heavy box, and Reima speculates that it might be some kind of concealment item. After dispelling the magic sealing it, Ra confirms with excitement that this is what they were searching for. Back in the present, Reima reads from a diary, confused, before finding an entry from his past self lamenting how hellish it is to study with no mana. He reads his past self's declarations to become the best support through knowledge and stamina, causing the current Reima to wryly note his other self was also a show-off. The narration explains that this world's Reima, despite having no mana, pushed himself relentlessly to support his childhood friend, and the diary was a testament to his struggle. Reading this fills the current Reima with guilt for stealing his counterpart's effort, yet he feels compelled to keep reading to understand the boy whose life he took. He reads through notebooks filled with detailed research on dungeons, monsters, and support tactics, eventually reaching the 8th book from middle school. The notebook transported him back to a memory of his past self, hunched over and writing furiously. His inner anguish was so intense it manifested as a screaming silhouette in his mind. In a memory, the original Reima writes that his current efforts are insufficient to help Ayani achieve S rank. He is tormented by this feeling of inadequacy, believing it's not enough. Wondering how to stop holding her back, he concludes that the only answer is to simply try even harder. Determined to be able to stand proudly by her side, he turns to the final page of his notebook. The perspective shifts to Lycoris, who recalls the original Reima as a hero who always acted for the sake of others. She reflects that unlike her, who only knew how to take and kill, he was a true hero capable of sacrificing himself for everyone. She remembers his unfailing promise to her. Filled with resolve, Lycoris vows to give back what she received from him. With his own resolve now firm, he decided there was still time to enter a dungeon and push himself, even if just a little. He reaffirmed to himself that there were 2 things he absolutely had to do in this world. The first was to protect all of his summons, and the second was to one day return the body he inhabited to the original Reima. He and Lycoris soon arrived at the rank C Black Iron Dungeon, a cave system, with Mofa feeling confident that they were fine having made it this far in. Believing they were in the deepest section, Lycoris asked Reima what he was doing there. He explained his intent to test his strength and asked her to watch his back, to which she agreed, but warned him not to overdo it. Reima assured her he knew what he was doing, having learned from the original Reima's notebook that cave-type dungeons spawn monsters everywhere, with creatures changing depending on the depth. He asked her to help him if things got bad. Ready to start the fight, Reima identified the creature as a silverback, noting its characteristically long arms. As he dodged, Reima analyzed that while its arms were specialized for destruction, its build only allowed for big, heavy swings. He exploited this by slipping inside its guard, where he knew the creature was weak. He reflected that up until now, he had never focused on polishing his technique, instead just pumping up his mana to overwhelm enemies with massive support and attacks. However, since he didn't know how well that would work in this world, he had no choice but to rely on the original Reima's knowledge and technique, which identified the weak spot as the magic stone on the left side of the chest. Reima then unleashed a powerful strike, shattering the magic stone. The silverback cried out in pain as its core was destroyed. Stepping back, Reima observed that more monsters looked like they were starting to show up. A massive bull-headed monster then charged forward, causing Reima to shout a warning for others to run away. He noted that this new foe was different from the one he had just taken down. He grimly assessed that it was clearly way stronger than the last one. He considered his options. If he were alone, he could easily escape, but fighting would risk causing a scene. However, looking at the people he was with, he resolved that he couldn't just abandon them. One of the adventurers called out for him to hurry, confused as to why he was just standing there. The adventurers continued to flee from the charging Minotaur, looking back at Reima. As they ran, Reima scanned the area and noted with relief that there were no floating streaming devices in sight. Deciding to intervene, Reima declared that they should leave it to him as he began to summon a weapon. The large bull-headed monster charged forward, closing the distance between them. Reima called forth his weapon, summoning the Lycoris Deathscythe to his hand. This particular weapon, a gift from Lycoris, was an instant kill assassination scythe that imbued poison and had a soul-corroding effect. He delivered a powerful kick directly to the monster's head, knocking it off balance. Reima followed up with a swift dark arc of his scythe, finishing the monster off completely. Moments later, the massive Minotaur lay motionless on the ground, defeated. Reima stood over the corpse as the adventurers he saved watched in awe from a distance. Their shock quickly turned to elation, and they rushed toward their savior. One of them, Rin, was so impressed that he immediately asked for an autograph, earning a scolding from his companion, who apologized for his friend's rudeness. Later, as Reima was leaving his house, his mother called out his name. She stood at the door, asking if he had forgotten anything before heading out. Reima replied with a hint of exasperation that this was the 3rd time she had asked. Undeterred, his mother ran through a checklist of items like his lunch, tissues, and phone, even suggesting he bring snacks for Ayani and Shiki, but Reima assured her he had everything. As his mother finally relented, Reima gently told her that she worried too much. His mother countered that she had every right to be concerned, since this was his first dungeon trip in a long time. He internally lamented that he couldn't tell her he had already been hunting monsters. He tried to reassure her, explaining that he would be fine since there was an S-rank adventurer in his group. She conceded that since it was just an extracurricular class it likely wouldn't be that tough, and agreed he was right. Just as he was heading out the door, she called out for him to wait a second. A few minutes later, she returned to him. Apologizing for the delay, she presented him with a box, saying she had been wondering when the right time was to give it to him. Reima's mother opened the box to reveal an ornate gun, telling him to carry it as a protective charm. He looked on in shock, recognizing the weapon. He realized it was the exclusive custom-made gear from his past life. He even recalled his old notebook containing combat tactics for it and had been wondering where it had gone. Turning back to his mother, he understood that she and his father had been keeping it safe for him all this time. At the entrance to the Rank C dungeon, the abandoned beast nest, his classmate Asahi Yugiri called out his name. The cheerful girl told Rima she was counting on him for their dungeon exploration today. A bit taken aback, Rima simply agreed, telling her he was counting on her as well. Nearby, Yukinaki Ayani watched them with a dark expression, quietly asking why. She seethed with jealousy, wondering why she wasn't in the same group as Rima. Other students noticed Lady Ayane's foul mood, whispering that something serious must have happened, and wondering if they should try talking to her. A dramatic internal narration framed the situation as the shadow dragon stealing his childhood friend's girl, as a man approached Yukinaki Ayane. Rima, watching from afar, was appalled by such a dishonorable nickname. Ayane then turned to her companion, Tsubaki Kana, and asked if the name Shadow Dragon meant anything to her. She seemed to have no clue who it could be. The two S-rank adventurers, Kaiser Dragonia and Tsubaki Kana, stood together, exuding an aura of immense power and confidence. Tsubaki Kana simply responded with her characteristic verbal, Dagozaru. Just then, Reima received a call from the man, Goro Tanaka, who explained he was watching and decided to introduce them properly, calling both Reima and Tsubaki Kana over. Looking a bit nervous, Goro began the introduction by presenting Reima as his childhood friend. He then stated his full name, Reima Karya, and explained that he works in a support role. Tsubaki Kana said it would be nice working with him while Ayane looked on thoughtfully, murmuring that so he was that Reima. The man finally introduced himself as Kaiser Dragonia, an S-rank adventurer assigned to their group. His companion also introduced herself as Tsubaki Kana, a Tuki user who goes by Kagura in streams, as Reima took it all in. He reflected that this was his first encounter with the famous S-rank adventurers, marking the beginning of a long relationship with these out-of-the-norm beings. Before him stood two imposing figures, the S-rank adventurers who had just been assigned to his group. Goro Tanaka, as his streamer persona Kaiser, dramatically announced the start of his live stream to his viewers. The extracurricular class was explained as a practical lesson where first-year groups from Meikutsu High run their own streams, a new initiative for the school. The stream's chat buzzed with questions about the project group, particularly Kaiser's female teammate, while other students watched in awe. One chatter noted that the other girl in the group looked familiar. Kaiser then proudly introduced his dungeon diving partners for the day, Reima Korea and Asahi Yugiri. The three of them stood together, ready to begin their adventure. He specified that both were from Meikutsu High's support department, a detail the chat found surprisingly quaint, like something from a fairy tale. As the chat expressed admiration for Labyrinth's support, Reima Korea formally introduced himself, vowing to give his best support for the day's mission. Following him, Asahi Yugiri introduced herself, explaining her specialty in strength and speed buffs and enthusiastically promising to do her best. Finally, Goro Tanaka reintroduced himself with his full title, Kaiser Dragonia, the seeker who commands dragons, and told everyone to simply call him Kaiser, while his viewers commented on the group's striking visuals. Reima announced they were entering the middle layers, where their target, the Cyclops, would begin to appear, and Kaiser instructed his viewers to pay close attention to the support members' actions. The group soon arrived at the entrance to a dark, cavernous part of the dungeon. As they walked, Reima found himself wondering about the capabilities of the impressive gun Kaiser carried. The stream's chat echoed his curiosity, questioning how Reima could provide support with a gun, a sentiment Asahi Yugiri admitted she shared. Noticing their curiosity, Kaiser explained his twin pistols, the black noir for debuffs and lightning magic, and the white blank for support and fire magic. Kaiser declared it would be faster to demonstrate and pointed out the newly appeared monster, which left Asahi looking on in awe. He immediately took charge, requesting speed and strength buffs from Asahi and Kaiser. As Asahi complied, Kaiser announced he would handle the debuffs. At the same time, Kaiser decided a defense-down magic bullet would be the perfect opening move. But before Kaiser could fire, a massive blast of energy erupted from Rima's gun, shocking Kaiser, who asked if Rima's gear could do that. Rima, looking flustered, admitted that while it should theoretically work, he had messed up the mana tuning, prompting the chat to ask if Kaiser could replicate such a feat. While the chat speculated Kaiser could do it in his dragon form, Kaiser himself confessed he was shocked by a shot packing as much power as his own fists and demanded to know how much mana Reima had used. Asahi urged them to focus on the approaching enemies. Reima observed that the new wave of monsters looked angry, while the chat declared that Reima's burst fire capability was practically cheating. In response to the new threat, Kaiser began to transform, his arm morphing into a draconic limb. After his attack, Kaiser identified the remaining enemies as more gargoyles. Seeing the airborne foes, Reima declared he would use his own weapon to deal with them. He swung his newly transformed dragon arm, clearing a swath of gargoyles with a single powerful strike. He confidently told Kaiser to leave the flying monsters to him. As Reima prepared to boost his leg strength, Kaiser, now transforming transforming his own leg, told him to handle the enemies in the air. Several gargoyles took to the air, circling above the party. He leaped into the air, shattering the ground beneath him and dodging explosive attacks with intense focus. After the fight, Kaiser praised him for being the first to keep up with his pace, but Reima humbly thanked the S-rank adventurer for trusting his directions. He then turned to Asahi, acknowledging that her buffs had been a huge help. Asahi smiled, glad she could contribute, and Reima privately admired how cute she was. Goro then announced they had reached the bottom of the middle layers where the Cyclops should be, noting that Yukinaki Ayane's group was streaming from deeper within. Tsubaki Kana then casually informed a shocked Goro that Asahi is at least technically a guy. Suddenly a massive protective shield materialized, deflecting an unseen attack. Goro yelled that it might be an anomaly and asked if Reima could keep up, to which Reima confidently replied to leave it to him. Reima then declared he would borrow power from his great ally and began a summoning chant. A stunned Goro realized with disbelief that Reima was a summoner too. As the summoning completed, Reima introduced his great ally, the silver dragon warrior Valkyria, who roared about showing a dragon knight's true valor, leaving the stream chat wondering if this was overkill. While the chat speculated about the dragon being a mutated variant, Reima instructed Asahi to focus on buffing Goro, explaining that his own role was to provide debuffs and support from a safe distance. Internally, Reima resolved to maintain his cover as the original Reima, since the fight was being streamed, deciding to test how far he could go by imitating a support role to disguise his true power. Reima mentally dubbed his plan Operation. Reima's magic tools are insane, as Goro, now partially transformed with a dragon arm and leg, eagerly anticipated the next attack, thrilled by the challenge. His heart pounding with excitement, Goro called out to Valkyria, ready for the fight. A massive blade swung down, striking Reima from behind. He immediately spun around, leveling his large, ornate revolver at his attacker. Reima fired a powerful blast which erupted towards the muscular, ogre-like foe. The sheer force of the shot slammed into the creature, sending it staggering backward. As the spell he'd imbued in the bullet automatically cut off, Reima marveled at how insane his gun truly was. An off-panel voice explained that while buffs and debuffs normally require constant maintenance, Reima, having no mana himself, was using the gun's stored energy to optimize activation time and conserve power, achieving maximum support with minimal waste. Announcing that the debuffs were refreshed, Reima shouted for Kaiser to begin his attack, and Kaiser immediately confirmed. As Kaiser praised his excellent timing, Reima commanded his great ally Valkyria to synchronize with him and unleash his ultimate strike, the Val Drago Spear. With two enemies left, Kaiser asked his buddy for his thoughts, guessing that the dual-wielding monster in the back was the boss. However, Tsubaki Kana pointed out that the boss wouldn't move until they had taken out the archer. Asahi Yugiri added to the problem, noting that Valkyria was weak to bows, which would make a direct rush difficult. Reima observed their similar combat approaches, thinking that if only they had another damage dealer, things would be different. Feeling down, Asahi apologized to the group, wishing she were able to fight alongside them. Tsubaki Kana quickly reassured her, exclaiming that her buffs were insane and had already saved their lives. The party's debuffer agreed, telling Asahi to be proud as her support allowed the rest of them to focus purely on their roles. Kaiser reflected that he would have hit his limit long ago without Asahi, and that copying Reima's style required him to completely rebuild his own strategy, a change he considered a blessing. Despite their praise, Asahi still wondered anxiously what she was supposed to do. Seizing the moment, Reima approached her and asked if he could borrow her partner for a bit. Intrigued, Kaiser watched them and asked Reima what exactly he was planning. Reima explained his new strategy. Kaiser would handle the archers while he and Valkyria took down the boss. He then posed a rhetorical question, asking if anyone else could possibly synchronize with Valkyria the way he could. In a moment of intense internal conflict, Reima's harsher persona warned that he would kill his other self if he put on a pathetic show, declaring that he understood the weight of a summon better than anyone. His resolve steeled, Reima confidently told Kaiser not to worry and to leave everything to him. The live stream chat erupted at this, questioning who this support student was to earn such unprecedented trust from Kaiser. The S-rank adventurer, however, simply believed this encounter would be an important experience for the young man's growth. Tsubaki observed this was a rare state for her colleague, while Reima, feeling the weight of their trust, resolved to give it his all. He then addressed the dragon, confirming her name was Valkyria and telling her to move at her own pace, confident an unbreakable bond would form. Now mounted on the great dragon, Reima promised to do his best to keep up with her. A series of powerful buffs were then applied, including claw enhancement, increased speed and attack, and a doubling of the holy attribute. The Cyclops immediately swung its massive axe with tremendous force, aiming to crush them. Their target, a massive Cyclops, saw the buffs and resolved to end the battle while its own enhancements were still active. Knowing the effects would only last 3 minutes, Kaiser concluded they had to wrap things up quickly. The silver dragon complied, unleashing a massive torrent of energy from her jaws at the Cyclops. The powerful blast completely engulfed the monster, obscuring it in a blinding light. In response, Reima cast debuffs from atop the dragon, slowing the creature's speed and the matter around it. The eye revealed itself as the true core of the monster, having survived the initial onslaught. From his position on her back, Rayma commanded Valkyria to unleash her breath attack. The great silver dragon complied, firing a massive devastating blast of energy from her jaws. But from within the explosion, a single monstrous eye emerged, warning them not to forget it. The attack slammed directly into the massive ogre, which roared as it was engulfed by the torrent. Seizing the opportunity, Kaiser lunged forward with a crazed expression, firing his gun and shouting for the creature to eat this. As the dust settled, Rayma looked on and cautiously asked if they had succeeded. Kaiser confirmed their victory and praised Rayma for a great job, admitting he was surprised. Rayma feigned ignorance, attributing his power to his gun system, a lie he acknowledged to himself. The chat remained baffled, but Kaiser praised Rayma's terrifying support ability, stating he supported Valkyria flawlessly, a feat even Hyakuma couldn't manage. Despite the praise, Rayma felt the victory wasn't truly his, believing he had simply used his mana while the credit belonged to the original Rayma's theories. His companions, however, were ecstatic, praising Kaiser for what they perceived as him single-handedly defeating the Cyclops, which had surprisingly mastered martial arts. Another adventurer analyzed the situation, recalling from Rayma's notes that a normal Cyclops was only upper B rank, and concluded this one must have been a terrifying A rank mutated variant. As the group celebrated their mission success and prepared to teleport out, an urgent voice cried out for Kaiser, warning him that Lady Ayani's party was in trouble in the lower layers. An adventurer rushed to Kaiser, pleading for his help. She explained that Lady Ayani's party had encountered a massive S-rank horde, and were at their limit trying to stop them from reaching the surface. Hearing this, Rayma realized with shock that unknown mutated variants were mixed in with the horde. As his party member worried about their friends, Rayma made a decision, declaring he would head to the lower layers with Valkyria to help. Rayma then instructed the others to report the crisis to the surface and call for backup, noting that the livestream data would be useful but the scale of the threat was unpredictable. In a flash of power, Rayma summoned his most powerful allies, calling out the names of Luna Manigarm, Lycoris Hydros and Sol as they appeared around him. With a confident smirk, he declared his simple plan to go save everyone, marking the return of the formidable Black Robe. Having gathered sufficient power for a single decisive blow, Rayma declared that it would be enough to wipe out all the monsters before him. He then unleashed his powerful attack, Cruel Sun Random. Elsewhere, Yukinaki Ayani reflected that abandoning her friends was never an option, forcing her to show her true self for the first time. Although she knew Asahi wasn't a malicious person, the pain from her past memories only caused her anxiety to worsen. Despite her fears, she seemed determined to press on. Her party was being overwhelmed. One man exclaimed how rough the fight was, while Ayan worried that even with Kaiser's help, their numbers were too few. Another companion lamented the absence of Rayma's support. Laughing, the dark-haired man told his complaining comrades to get back to fighting. An off-panel voice Rayma called out to his struggling dragon Valkyria, asking what was wrong. Suddenly, a massive swarm of shark-like monsters burst forth from a magical gateway above. Completely stunned by the sudden turn of events, Ayan could only cry out in confusion. However, a new serpentine monster appeared, confronting a mysterious figure standing before the party and demanding to know their identity. The figure was revealed to be Rayma, who explained that he had been watching their stream and came to help, assuring them he wouldn't be a burden. Kaiser, recognizing him as a summoner, asked what else he could do. Rayma replied that he could use support and attack magic as well as handle close combat, asking the party to leave it to him. As the enemies drew near, Rayma declared it was time to fight, a sentiment echoed by his summoned Valkyria, who confirmed she was ready. He commanded Luna and Sol to crush the enemies without holding back, while ordering Lycoris to charge and drown them in her poison. Assigning the right flank to them, he assured his companions they would handle every last monster, but warned them not to touch the dangerous poison mist. Meanwhile, the adventurers from Ayan's party were visibly exhausted and overwhelmed by the monster horde. As Luna and Sol attacked, one of the fighters exclaimed how dangerous the wolves were, with another agreeing they were among the strongest he had ever faced. The fighter noted the craziest part was the three-headed dragon, Lycoris, whose poison instantly defeated A-rank monsters, a feat another adventurer found terrifying to even contemplate. As they ran, Rayma wryly noted to himself that Tsubaki Kana was an incurable battle maniac. She called out to him as Mr. Black Cloak, amazed at his speed, while Shiki, struggling to keep pace, was shocked that Rayma was moving at 80 km, even with his own enhancements at their limit. Panting, Shiki yelled in disbelief, demanding to know how Rayma was keeping up with him. He then noticed something on Rayma's head and wondered what he was doing, but Tsubaki Kana simply replied that she was fast because she was really fast. Rayma explained he was preparing a spell by gathering the residual heat from Sol's attacks and eliminating survivors, which made Tsubaki marvel at his ability to manipulate leftover energy. He confirmed it was possible as long as magical energy remained and asked Tsubaki her plan, to which she simply said she understood. With a smirk, Tsubaki repeated his question to herself, pondering what she was planning. She then offered to lend Rayma her flames for his spell, seeing that he needed fire. Looking at the sinister energy gathering around her, Rayma skeptically questioned if it could truly be called fire. Tsubaki Kana proudly presented her power, calling it a secret family technique, passed down for generations, and asking if it wasn't amazing. Dropping the bravado, Tsubaki simply told Rayma to hit the creature hard, and from the shadows he confirmed he would. Just then a large lion-like monster charged directly at them. A powerful dark energy blast struck the charging monster head-on. Rayma looked over the now settled battlefield, the immediate crisis averted. In the aftermath, the hall was silent, littered with the bodies of the defeated monsters. He then turned his thoughts to the adventurers he had just saved, wondering what he should say to them. As Reima considered just leaving, a system alert declared a stampede breach, increasing the threat level and initiating a trial. As the summoning began, a cloaked figure described the origin of the entity being called forth. A primordial beast born on the 5th day of creation, an enemy of the gods destined to bring ruin. Reima recognized the creature from the apocalypse summoning as Behemoth, the calamity that reigns over all beasts. As the colossal beast charged, Luna, riding her wolf, shouted for the others to get ready, declaring she would hold it off while they stayed behind her. In response to the threat, Reconnecting prepared a defensive spell, the Divine Storm Aegis. Goro Tanaka announced their ultimate strike, combining his power with Tsubaki Kana's Kamisari-style secret art, Everlasting World Severance, and his own Valkyrie Catastrophe. Goro Tanaka stared in disbelief, realizing the beast had simply deflected their ultimate move. Tsubaki Kana felt despair, admitting that was her secret art, but Goro ordered everyone to fall back for now, telling her to be glad the attack wasn't turned back on them. As they retreated, Reima analyzed the creature, deducing it had poison resistance and emitted its own toxin, which caused Licorice to cry out in pain. Indeed, Behemoth stood completely unharmed, casually chewing on the remnants of the energy blast. Reconnecting considered his options, believing he could probably kill Behemoth, but not without a cost. He reasoned that even if he won, he likely wouldn't walk away from the fight unscathed. Furthermore, as Luna's wolf cast fetters of the divine wolf to bind the beast, Reima realized that if the battle intensified, the entire dungeon could collapse. The thought of Ayani and the others being crushed horrified him. Goro Tanaka expressed his awe at Reima's power, but Reima warned that the restraint was temporary and wouldn't even hold for 3 minutes. Because of this, he yelled for the others to get out of there, declaring that he would buy them some time. Shiki then approached Reima, asking the Black Cloak if his earlier words meant he actually had a way to defeat the beast. Reima admitted that he technically did, but the method would leave him completely exposed and would mean their doom if it failed. Hearing this, Shiki understood and declared their new mission was to buy Reima time. The other adventurers quickly fell in line. Yamato Narara agreed to fight anything he could cut. Tsubakana offered to handle airborne threats, and another decided to support Luna's wolf. Only one man with glasses questioned if they were seriously going to trust a sketchy guy in a black cloak. To the skeptic's question, Reima simply replied, "Of course." An adventurer in a white cloak assured him that they trusted him. A blonde-haired adventurer agreed, stating that his refusal to run proved he wasn't an enemy. Shiki called him a reckless idiot for always sacrificing himself, while Tsubaki Kana admired his style, noting his summon's belief in him was proof enough. Hearing their earnest declarations, Reima could only think to himself that they were a bunch of idiots. Shaking off that thought, he declared their shared goal was to get through this alive and proceeded to summon his weapon, Leviatine. With his weapon in hand, Reima explained his plan to end the fight in a single strike with a powerful divine annihilation spell. He asked his companions to buy him 5 minutes to chant and charge his mana, adding that it would be a great help if they could also immobilize the enemy. Goro Tanaka acknowledged that it was an impossible request but their only shot. Reima then asked if he should just hack the creature's legs off. Goro Tanaka, needing to stay mobile, countered with a plan to use ice walls and asked to ride the silver wolf Luna. Goro then immediately approved his own request, telling Luna that Ayani was in her hands, much to the wolf's visible displeasure. As the others prepared, Reima noticed the newly appeared Licorice and asked who the beautiful girl was. Licorice matter-of-factly stated that she was the Hydra from earlier in her human form and that it should have been obvious. Reima was left exasperated, feeling his common sense slipping away every time he spoke with her. As Reima prepared his spell, his dragon ally Valkyria roared, telling him not to count them out and to stay focused. Shiki yelled out, his face contorted with effort. Meanwhile, a massive wave of dark energy surged across the battlefield. He shouted for Kaiser to take the shield he was throwing. The energy wave crashed forward with immense force. Reima watched in shock as the situation escalated. Behemoth then unleashed a colossal swirling vortex of destructive power. In response, Tsubaki Kana braced herself and activated her defensive technique, Heavenly Grace of 1,000 Winds, creating a whirlwind of blades. Behemoth recoiled slightly from the force of the defensive maneuver. The beast was momentarily knocked off balance. In the distance, Behemoth recovered and prepared to fire a beam attack. Seeing the danger, Licorice cried out Reima's name in fear as she and Saul ran. The devastating beam shot directly towards Reima. Still chanting, Reima realized with dawning horror that he wouldn't finish his spell in time. Just then, Goro Tanaka shouted to Reima, asking if he was ready. A confident grin spread across Reima's face as he told Kaiser to leave it to him, announcing the attack's arrival. A new powerful attack, Scorching Sky Falling World, descended from above. With his team of powerful allies assembled, a man with red hair and glasses declared that their operation had begun. Reima watched Behemoth, confused when he realized the beast wasn't aiming for them. His summon, Anthos, deduced that the creature didn't see them as a threat yet, concluding it was ignoring the weaklings to secure its escape by blasting a hole in the ceiling. Hearing this, Reima panicked, realizing everyone upstairs would be caught in the blast. Shiki told him to calm down and simply do his job, turning his attention to Behemoth. He then warned the primordial beast that if it let its guard down, he would cut it down before it knew what happened. She launched herself into the air, a blur of motion as she prepared her attack. He remarked that Shiki was right, admitting that one doesn't get an adventure like this every day. Watching from the side, Asahi Yugiri noted that both Tsubaki Kana and Goro Tanaka were going all out. Meanwhile, Yukinaki Ayane, riding atop the silver wolf Luna, told her companion she was counting on her, to which Luna snorted in agreement. The battlefield was a chaotic scene of monsters and adventurers. She unleashed an ice icefall spell, aiming to freeze the beast in its tracks. The primordial beast roared, breaking free of its restraints and focusing its rage on the dragon rider. Reima observed that while they had managed to distract Behemoth, it was now dangerously locked onto Kaiser. Shiki, however, simply reminded Reima that he had told him to calm down. Suddenly, Tsubaki Kana appeared beside them, agreeing with Shiki and addressing Reima as Mr. Black Robe, leaving him stunned by her sudden appearance. Reima, now filled with renewed confidence, declared that they could do this. He reflected that while he was initially unsure, the teamwork was flawless, with Luna and Ayani in perfect sync and Sol moving in rhythm with Kagura. But then a sudden thought stopped Reima in his tracks. He began to wonder if the mana he had sent to his summon soul was somehow insufficient to draw out her full power. He knew the bond between a summoner and their beast was said to determine their power, a principle he had used to defeat the Demon King, even if some considered it a myth. This worried him as Sol was clearly weaker than in their previous world, a fact not explained by his own decreased mana, especially since Luna was fine. As the adventurers struggled to hold back Behemoth, one wondered why Reima was their key. Shiki desperately asked how much time was left, and Reima urged them to hold on for 3 more minutes. Shiki acknowledged the brutal fight, and Ayani confirmed she heard him. Meanwhile, Yukinaki Ayani declared she would end the fight in one shot, unleashing her infinite ice blades attack against a massive foe. Reima Karia faced a terrible choice. If he fired his charged attack at the sky to stop the falling meteor, the dungeon would be saved from collapse, but Behemoth would break through to the surface. He recognized the magic gathering above as a meteor, a weapon of overwhelming mass. He weighed the lives of his comrades against the thousands of people living peacefully on the surface. Torn and unable to choose, Reima ultimately resolved that he could not let Ayani and the others die. The blast had carved a massive trench through the dungeon floor. After a massive explosion rocked the dungeon, a lone adventurer cautiously asked if they had succeeded. Reima Karia told him not to jinx it but congratulated everyone, admitting that the S-rank adventurers were on another level. Tsubaki Kana joked with Goro Tanaka about raising a death flag, while Yamato Narara and Goro congratulated their comrades. Reima praised their magic as being capable of reaching the gods. As their drones filmed from above, Ayani checked on a companion who had used up their mana. However, the adventurer Nit suddenly realized their dungeon dive was still being live-streamed. Tsubaki Kana also remembered the stream and was shocked by something she saw, prompting a confused Reima to ask what was wrong. A system message announced they had surpassed 500,000 concurrent viewers. Ayani was stunned that her channel alone had that many, while Reima panicked, wondering what they were supposed to do now. Later, Shiki and Tsubaki Kana deferred taking the massive magic stone left by Behemoth. Reima also refused it, calling it a nuisance and pointing out that something about it seemed strange. The strange fractured magic stone lay on the ground. The god-slaying magic had not been enough to completely finish Behemoth, and Reima knew from Ration's notes the conditions required for a magic stone to form in such a state. Reima abruptly told the others they could sell the stone for all he cared and quickly departed. When they caught up, they found him confronting a mysterious horned girl. Tsubaki Kana questioned why she was running away, while Shiki cautiously asked for her name and what she was. The girl simply stated her name was Behemoth, to which Shiki resignedly admitted that he had already figured it out. Reima then explained that he had already asked because he hadn't wanted to believe it, lamenting that reality was cruel. However, he quickly tried to find another explanation, reasoning that since there were other summoners present, there was still a chance someone else was responsible. He then directly asked Behemoth who her summoner was, and she bluntly identified him as the one. Horrified by this confirmation, Reima desperately asked if he could somehow return her. Behemoth admonished him, stating it was irresponsible to refuse to take responsibility after he had forced something so huge into her against her will. Panicked by her suggestive phrasing, Reima yelled at her to watch her words to avoid causing a misunderstanding. Reima then declared it was the truth, yelling that forcing a contract without consent was messed up. In a confusing turn, he claimed to be premium-grade merchandise and said he had trusted her mana to form the contract, prompting a nearby creature to call the situation atrocious. Meanwhile, a crying Behemoth sighed that his complaint applied to her too, as she had only wanted to see the sky before being attacked and sliced apart. The special stream project from Make You High had captured massive attention, and even with the school shut down for a week, the public excitement showed no signs of fading. At a friend's house, Shiki stared at a PC screen in awe, calling the footage amazing. Asahi Yugiri apologized for his outburst as another girl complained about them hogging the computer, exasperatedly asking how many times they planned to watch the video. From the couch, another friend told the noisy pair to be quiet, highlighting the enormous impact the event had. A blonde girl with her hair in a bun scrolled through a tablet, having bookmarked everything related to Black Robe and noting that even Rio was watching it. Nearby, Rin excitedly declared that she was watching the footage as well. The public conversation was consumed by talk of Black Robe, with many recognizing that the viral event had been a genuine national crisis. The thought of what could have happened if the stampede had reached the surface sent chills down people's spines. News reports on television screens everywhere were dominated by coverage of Black Robe's appearance. Shiki declared him a hero, though narration revealed that his overwhelming strength led some to speculate he was the mastermind behind it all. While public opinion varied, Tsubaki Kana simply confirmed that she had seen it unfold firsthand. 4 days into the school closure, Asahi Yugiri arrived at Reima's house, nervously thanking him for having her over. Reima Karia welcomed her inside, explaining that his parents were out for the day. Asahi then asked if he was going to explain that thing they had talked about. Rima confirmed it, expressing gratitude for her silence but admitting it would be awful of him not to explain everything. She blushed with second-hand embarrassment, remembering how she had unknowingly preached to Rima about his own secret identity. Asahi recalled that this misunderstanding was how their current situation had started in the first place. Deciding it would be faster to demonstrate, Rima began an incantation to summon Sol and Luna. Luna immediately focused on Asahi, defensively asking Rima who the girl was. In a flash of light, the two wolf spirits Sol and Luna materialized in his room. Asahi stood frozen in shock facing the two powerful summons. Pointing at Rima, Asahi tried to clarify to Sol that he was a guy, which prompted a surprised reaction from the summon. Asahi quickly put the pieces together, identifying the blue one as Luna and the gold one as her sister Sol. She realized they were the wolves she had seen during the battle. After a moment, Asahi questioned Rima, asking how he could use magic when he supposedly had no power. He simply stated that it had awakened at some point, an explanation she seemed to accept. She reasoned that since she had heard of people awakening powers later in life, his story was plausible. Rima went along with it, claiming he was an awakener who discovered his magic after waking up in the hospital. Asahi realized it made sense for him to hide his powers to avoid being taken by the dungeon agency for tests, concluding that the summons were his companions. Rima confirmed this, mentioning that he had yet to call upon Lycoris. He decided he should at least explain a little about Lycoris's abilities, warning Asahi that she was seriously strong. Rima's thoughts drifted back to the battle with Behemoth. He recalled his reasoning that while the beast had many resistances, it shouldn't have been able to withstand Sol's sun flame. He continued to ponder the fight, knowing that Sol should have been able to fight much harder. The fact that her power had dropped so significantly meant something was wrong. Despite his expectations, Sol's sun flame had barely affected Behemoth. Back in the present, Sol cheerfully interrupted his thoughts, asking him what was wrong. Rima brushed off her concern, saying it was nothing. Internally, however, he noted that while she looked the same, he felt a new distance between them, as if she were deliberately keeping away from him. Asahi also noticed his expression and asked what was wrong, commenting that he was making a scary face. He brushed it off as her imagination, though he privately worried that he had made her anxious. However, she clarified that it wasn't just that. A message had just arrived from their friend Shiki. Reading the message, Rima noted Shiki's usual bluntness as it simply asked if he was free that day. On the spot, Rima invited Asahi to go to the arcade with Shiki, an offer she happily accepted. He then turned to ask Luna and the others about their plans. Luna decided she would go too, while Sol volunteered to stay behind and watch over Rima's room. Elsewhere, Sol remarked to Luna that Rima hadn't changed, but Luna countered that he was their master, and Sol's question proved that she hadn't changed either. Sol hoped Luna was right, but confessed she was worried she couldn't fight effectively anymore, lamenting that she hadn't been able to help Rima at all since coming to this world. Luna downplayed the fight with the lizard, insisting the real issue was Behemoth. She pointed out that in their old world, Sol should have been powerful enough to at least burn off its arm. Startled, Sol asked if Luna wasn't going to discuss concerns with their master. From his own location, Rima internally scoffed at the idea of opening up, thinking he would just be teased. Lycoris explained that Rima was a born hero who was simply too kind, recalling how she had watched him work tirelessly, always getting back up for the sake of others. She continued, noting that even though he was originally meant to be their destroyer, he pushed forward more than anyone, all for someone else's sake. Sol tried to reassure her, saying they just needed to work hard enough to ensure things didn't end badly. Lycoris supposed so, but admitted that the possibility still frightened her. She then reflected on her own true nature, her origin, which took pleasure in the thought of Rima's ruin. Meanwhile, Luna grappled with her own origin, Skull, which laughed at destruction. She confessed a self-hating desire to break the hero Rima is and fall with him to the very bottom. Upon hearing this, Lycoris quietly wondered if it would be better if she weren't there at all. The weight of their shared anxieties filled the silence. On the final day of the school closure, Rima stood on a balcony, bored. He considered going into a dungeon to return his body to its rightful owner but decided against it, knowing his black robe identity was too hot a topic to risk being seen. His influence was out of control, and though he hoped things would calm down, he immediately realized that was unlikely. He recalled Lycoris's explanation that while his magic from the other world was still inside him, it hadn't settled, limiting him to 30% of his power and preventing him from using certain summons. Suddenly, Algol Gorgon appeared, asking if Rima had finally decided to summon her. Rima's mild recognition prompted her to ask if she wasn't good enough. As the narration noted, she was one of his more level-headed summons. A brilliant flash of light erupted in Rima's room as he performed a summoning. The Medusa declared that it had taken him long enough to call upon her. Rima clarified he was just impressed she was wearing glasses. Aldal explained it was a necessary precaution for her turn, as she was sensible enough to avoid causing mass petrification. Rima agreed it was for the best, but her question about her turn prompted him to promise an explanation, though parts of it would have to remain secret for now.